lot of things have changed. A lot of progression was made, and I assembled an entire list of things that I'm just gonna read from. Yes. So I added in crouching. Well, hitbox reduction with their own collision masks, separate from the actual player sprites, to make it easier to change how thick your character will be like. So you could crouch down and stuff, roll under objects. I also worked on the attack sequences. I learned how to animate, by the way, like I said last time. However, it's been so long since I actually spent a lot of time drawing stuff with my drawing tablet, so hand cramps were a major issue. So all in all, I finished like an animation and a half. Yeah, I'll continue working on those, and I'll swap between like animating and programming to reduce the strain on my hands. Anyway, it allowed me to actually start working on some of the mechanics that relied on timing. I also made a few that still require adjustments when the animations for them are made, but we'll get there eventually. So yeah, player attacks. Revamped the entire attack system. You no longer shoot random bullets. It's still rough around the edges, but it works, and that's the most important part. You have to make a few changes to projectiles again, though, so that you can actually damage opponents. It's currently disabled. What else I do? Oh, I added a defensive feature as well. You can pull up a shield in front of you or above you, depending on your stance. And shield doesn't function at the moment, but it's there. It just needs to be implemented. I also improved the health system. You now have your double health bar, your corruption bar, and your regular health bar, and depending on the state you're in, they get used as your actual HP bar, which swaps if you swap states. Death actively swaps your state and spawns the character at the correct location. Did a lot of bug fixing with that one as well, because the spawn point creation didn't exactly function well. I added a special attack feature that takes longer to charge but does more damage over time. That's it for the player mostly. Most of the player stuff is done. I still need to add in the leveling system with the crystals that you gather and have like scaling and stuff. But aside from that, most of it is finished. I've also had a lot of improvements on the mob and boss systems, the NPCs. I completely revamped probability calculation. The old system was buggy as hell and barely worked even. I've compressed all of it, made a neat little script for it that creates an array of correct probabilities and then just runs a random number, checks where it fits within that array and performs the set attack. This also allowed me, this and another thing I did, I had a copied physics engine. I copied the physics engine for the player in order to use it for the enemies last month, but it didn't exactly function correctly. So I deleted it and made an entirely new one with a basic built-in AI that allows the enemies to jump over obstacles in their path. It's nothing advanced. If an enemy needs advanced AI, I'll probably build it into the enemy itself. But at least this thing here works. It's nice, compact. And this, with the revamped probability system, allowed me to actually work on better attacks for the bosses rather than the preset missile shooting thing that I had before. So bosses have, well, the only boss that I've been working on so far has 2 attacks, almost finished. Needs tweaking, small adjustments, but for all intents and purposes, they're functional. Second one that's being worked on is currently just a movement one, so that you can, so I can test some stuff. Let me adjust probability here, so it actually shows the other 2 attacks when I show you the demo. I made a targeting script as well, so that the opponents can target the closest player that is actually reachable. So it will ignore you through walls and floors. It's a neat little thing. Added an enemy as well, a new one, a corrupted wisp. These things are basically pure corruption that haven't affected anything yet. They're meant to perform a debuff attack on the player that coincides with a special game feature, the one that I'll actually discuss today. I hinted at it last devlog. One that makes the game substantially more difficult upon death, ties into lore and all that. It actually doesn't do anything right now aside from its teleportation mechanic. It blinks near the player every few seconds, and the animation for it's also done. So once I program in that specific game mechanic, this guy will also be functional. I fixed a lot of bugs as well with player movement. You were able to get stuck in certain locations, and I fixed that. You will actually stand still when attacking now. You're not able to actually switch animation states while remaining on the same spot, which was a major issue. I also added destructible walls. Walls that are brittle and can be destroyed when dashed to or thrown into, which is a big part of the first boss fight you'll encounter. And that's most of the coding I've done. So let's show it off. What I have here. Yeah, breakable wall. It's just a green box for now until it has actual image. The enemy with its animation that just blinks near the player in a random area around the player. I will have to clamp its range so it actually doesn't teleport onto the player. I also added in health bars just to visualize the player health. Got a button here to reduce it a bit. I can swap states here, and you can see that it keeps the health value. They will have different animation frames as well. Currently it's just a movement speed increase to show that it's a different player object. It's a different state you're in. And yeah, I have the idle animation, which is a quick draft. That'll be replaced by a better one. It's just a test on design here. And I have the running one that's actually shaded and neat, and dubbed Headless Hank for my inability to animate heads on a running character. Yeah. It's a placeholder, so it doesn't really require a head at the moment. Anyway, let's break through this. As you can see, you can roll underneath. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess right now. The boss will perform 2 attacks at once due to not having an animation, so there is no delay on his attacks, but he has this one attack where he will grab the player and then throw it away. That's what destroyed this destructible wall here. And then he has the other attack where he slams the ground and it grows the hitbox. The hitbox currently is just, well, an enlarging box that will be replaced by an actual animation that spawns in separate hitboxes for every rock that gets pushed up from the ground. It's kind of a long-range ground slam attack. Here I just got a little bump to show off. Oh yeah, that's right, I removed the code that loaded to move to me. This here was to test the opponents jumping over tiny obstacles here. It works, but it's really hard to show off since his attack... Yeah, there we go. And he's gone. Yeah. Attacks are a bit wonky until I have the actual animations, because timing is very important when doing these. Anyway, that's most of the progress for this month. Yeah, it's a decent amount if I say so myself. I'm pleased with it. I actually wanted to do a little bit more animating the boss and remove that ugly ass drawing that I made with my mouse ages ago, but I ran out of time. So that'll be something for the upcoming weeks. Speaking of, devlogs will no longer be monthly. They will be either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on progress I make during the weeks, because most of the upcoming work is animation, and level design. I've actually got a whiteboard. I've planned out the level, the first chapter, which is the island chapter, divided in a section, got a mood board ready, made an entire diagram, decided on some of the bosses and the way they'll work, enemy placements and stuff like that. So I'll be actually developing those into this game. And those are things that I can actually show off more often, unlike most of just the framework coding I've done up until now. So devlogs will be more frequent in the future. Yeah, so that's it for progress. Let's discuss that game mechanic, which is your own corruption. Like I've explained in the previous devlog, you got 2 health bars, which you swap between. You have 2 states. When you die, that's the first game mechanic that's introduced. When you die, you will become corrupted, turn into a melee, tanky little fella that has different attacks, different playstyle. Of course, that has a penalty on your mind. Corruption actually wants to, it's like a hive mind. You see, all of the corrupted minds are combined together and they strive for a single purpose, which is destruction. So it tries to overtake your consciousness every time you get corrupted. And it grows stronger the more your existence fades. So if you experience true death after chapter 1, because there's something that will happen in the last boss fight to trigger this, you will spawn in a corrupted version of yourself. A shadow, as it may, on the spot of your death. Kind of functions like the blood stains in Dark Souls, where you can get your souls back. This will allow you to get your levels back, crystals and stuff that you've gathered. However, when collecting them, you get sent into a dark abyssal-like area where you will have to fight yourself, basically. Character that resembles your corrupted version with the attacks of your corrupted version, and it will have the strength you had upon death. Meaning that unless you farmed out the opponents in that area, you will be weaker than yourself and will have to outsmart him. You will also be limited to only your non-corrupted version for that fight as well. So that's the major death penalty that this game has. True death is punished by making the game actively harder. Defeating yourself in that spot, however, returns all of the collected crystals back to you that you lost, and will permanently remove that spot back away from the game, so you won't have to fight yourself twice. Later on in the 3rd chapter, instead of being a spot that you can just ignore if you don't want your crystals back, you will actively spawn in yourself within the level. Which means that not only will you have to fight off a stronger version of yourself, but also the enemies that are in that level. So yeah, you might want to not die in the 3rd chapter. 1st chapter, however, will not have that feature, and True Death will simply send you back to a certain checkpoint without any penalties. 1st chapter is mostly a tutorial chapter meant to teach you how the game works and get familiar with it. It's also something I've thrown out in a diagram. It's divided in 5 chapters, starting with the boss fight at the docks area, with the loader, the one that I'm designing at the moment. It'll make you familiar with how combat timing and such works. After that, you will have a section in a water filtration station. A lot of high differences to make you familiar with how movement works. Then you'll have a horde boss fight, a lot of small guys, make you familiar with how to manage aggro, stuff like that. So, first major chapter of the game will be fairly easy going, as far as, well, this game won't be easy. Not at all, but it'll be mostly for teaching the player how to play. Yeah, that was it for today's devlog. I hope you are up to date now with progress. And well, link to the Facebook page will be in the description again. And I'll see you guys in a week, 2 weeks. Depends on progress. I'm not entirely sure. If you have any questions, just post them below or on the Facebook page, and I'll try to answer them. And goodbye.